Welcome to the Dementialand podcast, a story for everyone who knows someone living in or near Dementialand. My name is Suska, and this is my story. Episode 32, My Love Affair with Picasso and Gulley Jimson. I closed my eyes and used all my brains to go someplace other than where I was. Artists can do that if they have a mind to. I needed to leave Chicago and run inside myself, back to my studio where it was warm and foggy, with the sweet smell of paint drying, and the odors of dead fish carcasses squeezing their way through the sides of my roll-up door. Oh, it didn't take long. And when I came out of my head, I was relieved, no doubt about it. I knew that I had escaped a great deal of madness. I was finally home.
Good Lord, where have you been? We ran out of wine.
Oh, my dear, dear Picasso. I had many mentors and colleagues, all dead, unfortunately. I shared my studio with the ghosts of de Kooning and Rauschenberg, and I slept with Picasso, Giacometti, and Gulley Jimson. My bed was filled with their books and their literary notes. Picasso and Gulley Jimson were the loudest and the most aggressive. They wasted no time in placing their opinions. They would argue inside my head about substance and creative worth. A couple of times while I was sleeping, they just got up and finished 2 of my paintings without even asking me.
Suska, my dear, I found myself to have been left in charge of the studio for the time of your absence and took full responsibility of your property. You needn't worry about your work. A good wall will paint itself. But upon further evaluation, we have decided that your paintings needed cacti and spiked grass, possibly some bald heads. And there needs to be dancing. Bosomy women dancing in bare feet. Yellow, dark feet long with red nails. Yes, indeed, the angels must always be surprised when an artist dives headfirst into his paint, and then with a twist of his imagination comes out again, as bold as an eagle, with wings bigger than the biggest in all the heavens.
Picasso commented from the other side of the room and pointed to one of my paintings called African Skies. Overcome with his own theatrics, he paused and called on his hands to continue expressing his fervor.
Ooh, I like this. This painting has potential. Right here, you did not just paint a sun into a yellow spot. You transformed a yellow spot into a sun. Brilliant! I like very much.
Picasso then looked back at a painting that I called my Adam and Eve. That's when his enthusiasm withered a bit. Before I knew it, he took my brush, wet with paint, and in a wide-flying motion made bold color strokes across the canvas without even asking me. At first I screamed out, but I could have fired a gun to his head and he wouldn't have heard a thing. And that's when the rain started and slapped the roof boorishly in support of my resentment. I clinched and tried to grab his arm. My anger tightened me, shut, and closed me from anything outside my indignation. But he kept painting, oblivious to my outrage or Gulley's approaching insurrection.
Blend them together. Let Adam absorb Eve.
Stop, you bastard. What are you doing? You've gone too far.
Oh, Gulley Jimson badgered back. He had a strong opinion about art. Gulley lived in the pages of the literary world. He never got along much with other painters. He was quite melodramatic and forceful. Gulley admired more than anything in the world his own presence, and particularly enjoyed the sound of his voice as he gushed over his armed opinions.
My dear Petsy, I will save your painting from this tyrant.
Go away. You cannot save something you don't understand.
You make my guts wind.
Picasso then turned his attention and full body toward me, as if we were already engaged in a long, intimate conversation over a glass of Merlot. He lowered and spread out his words like soft butter on a croissant.
Listen to me, my sweet goddess. You need to dissect all their parts and merge them in the garden. They're Eden.
Oh, poppycock! And poppycock on your pissology into your chopping women up into pieces like broken glass, scattering them into the trees.
Well, then Picasso boiled over. He moved in on Gulley and poked him in the chest with his brush. My paintbrush. Just inches away from his face, he pushed out his words.
You think too much and do so little.
Gulley then grabbed the palette knife off the table and aimed it at Picasso's neck.
You arrogant son of a bitch! I'll carve out that manly apple from your bloody throat and feed it to the buzzards, you miserable chopper!
I thought I was going to explode. Everyone was talking and arguing in voices that resembled my own. Picasso was furious and screamed back at Gulley.
You're a foolish old man. Go back to your mural giraffes and your circus models, your zebras and your mad drummers. And what does it matter to you? It's not your painting. You seem to forget you're only a guest.
I am no guest. I am Gulley Jimson, created by Joyce Carey, a literary genius, you blundering idiot. Suska and I have been intimately close for years.
Giacometti just looked at us like he was watching a bar fight over a game of darts.
The fall into freedom. That is what you should call the painting. Yes, I think it should be titled The Fall into Freedom. Or you can simply cut the damn thing up and mend the floor with it. Has anyone enough full sense to notice a puddle on the floor?
By this time, the water was dripping steadily from the roof. Drops of water slapped on me and on my cheek and continued dripping. I always knew that hole was there, but since it rained so seldom, I just put off climbing onto the roof and covering the hole with duct tape. In what seemed like seconds, the rain found its strength and fell through that hole like a pouty faucet. I shoved the brush's bucket under the drippings and moved to the side all the paintings that were drying on the floor. I then put the Fall into Freedom, also known as Adam and Eve, close to the fan to speed up its drying. The lights flickered. The storm yelled and slapped everything electric on and off twice. The voices of my ghostly colleagues laughed and drunkenly stirred around under my skin. My eyes glassed over the room. The floor was silky smooth, like a body of water circling the deck of the Titanic, all glazed and deep in wonderings, prisms of things not seen but full of longing. My nights of painting always had an angel's blessing. I looked back onto the studio and noticed my colleagues had made themselves disappear. They left like birds before a storm. And just as quick, the skies fell apart and 1,000 stars peeked through the only one tiny window at the far end of my studio, telling me the storm was just passing through. Then out of nowhere, I heard a scraping, a clanging sound from somewhere outside. My eyes tightened. I couldn't look. A grating sound of metal scraping against concrete shoved all my artness aside. Snowplows with huge wheels wearing chain bonnets had pushed through the studio's walls in my head. Cinder blocks fell and tripped over each other, crushing gallons of my color. The spillage was heavy and slippery. A cloud of dust and ash thickened and spread over the murky-colored quicksand. Paint, in a slow frenzy, poured out and swarmed into each other for support. But they lost their substance and drowned in a sea of muddy gray, with only a few tiny splotches of color holding on to their integrity. I stood there so powerless and in terror. Oh God, my paintings, my masterpieces. When can I go home? To purchase any of the paintings or prints of the images in this podcast, go to Zuzka at myshopify.com. Thank you for listening.